So my daughter's birthday is coming up. Her birthday is January 9th, and I am going to tell you about that. The time between Christmas 2005 and, let's see, January 8th, 2006 was excruciating. I was not only ready to have my body back to myself, but I was exhausted. I mean, I was just so ready to be done with being pregnant. I was so excited, but pretty much at that point, the excitement was taken over by the exhaustion. And when I finally did go into labor, I wasn't sure I was in labor, but I wanted it to be labor really, really badly. And I remember I was having these waves of it's kind of like orgasmic waves of bliss kind of rolling through my body, and it was pretty regular. And I remember calling my midwife, and she was like, yeah, that could go on for days. And I felt a little crazy at that point. I was like, wait a minute, you don't understand. Like, this is consistent. She's like, yeah, I know, but that could go on for days, honestly. And I'm like, inside, I wanted to freak out at her, I was just like, no, you've got to be kidding me. But anyway, she came over. I convinced her to come over, and she chatted to me, and she was in there doing her thing, and she was like, yeah, you're at like 2 or something centimeters, and I'm like, okay. I was very disappointed. I went for a walk later that night, and I remember that I was still having the contractions were coming, kind of like these orgasmic waves of contraction were still kind of coming. They were starting to get a little bit more intense, and they were starting to get a little bit more regular. So I was very excited about this. But it was feeling good. I was stopping every once in a while, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to practice my breathing, and I'd bend over. I was over by the college, over by NMC, and I was walking through the college, and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I got this. This is good, okay? So then I walk back home, and they're still coming, and we call my midwife again, and she's telling me and my husband at the time to get some rest. I'm not going to get rest, but he goes to sleep, and I was a little bit annoyed at that, but he needed the rest because I don't know what all I did, but I know I meditated, and then I know I couldn't sit still anymore, so I got in the shower, and I was in the shower, and I remember it just like this wave came through again, and I just started moving, and I was like, I grabbed onto the shower curtain rod, and I was like, oh, and I kind of opened my eyes. I had 2 big mirrors on either side, and the shower curtain was a see-through shower curtain, so I was like, I came back to myself for a minute, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And then it was right back to the waves of orgasmic bliss, and at some point I just had this sense, like I was going to surrender myself over to this flow of birth, right? Like this laboring thing that was going to take me into this birthing experience. And I knew I needed to let this really deep primal part of myself come forward. And I even named that primal part of myself Sloth Woman. And so I get out of the shower, and man, I was like, okay, my daughter's here, but I'm going to say this anyway. So, when I had a really good mushroom trip, and you're seeing everything's so awesome, and I see myself, my beautiful, my body was just so gorgeous, and I was just like, wow, oh my gosh, and I'm rubbing my belly, and then I caught it, again, I kind of came back to myself a little bit, what am I doing, but I saw it in the mirror. I was like, I could see Sloth Woman. She was there, She was taking over, and I liked it. I'm like, yeah, take it. We got this. I remember, I think a little bit past that, I was having a home water birth. So our birthing tub was right in my bedroom, and I got into the tub, and it felt really good. The water's nice and warm, and I'm all like blissed out and kind of trippy. And then I started feeling like I was going to throw up, and I couldn't get out of the tub because I was having a contraction at the same time. And this time it wasn't quite the same. And I was, I wasn't sure. I wanted to do something, and there was nothing for me to do because Sloth Woman was taking over at this point. And I'm like, okay, so I get through this round of contractions. The breathing thing was like gone, And I know I have a sense anyway, I have a long way to go, so this isn't a good deal. I get myself out of the birthing tub, like I feel like I've gained 100 pounds. I can hardly get myself out of the tub. And I plop down beside it, and I'm like sitting there, like nauseated, just like, and my husband gets up, and he's going to the bathroom. He's like, "How you doing?" And I'm like, he's looking at me, and he keeps walking, and I'm like, where the hell is he going? And he goes pee, and I'm too, Sloth Woman's got me. I can't really say what I want to say. But he comes back through, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, I can't do it by myself anymore. Call Diana. And Diana's not my midwife. She's my doula, my labor support person. So I guess he does that. But at this point, I'm just like, I'm gone. And I remember, I don't know, people started showing up. She showed up, the midwife showed up. And at some point, I had to pee. And I'd already been crawling around naked, like, moaning and moving, and sometimes fascinated, like a little bit of me would come back, but mostly it was Sloth Woman there, like handling the situation. So, so I go to the bathroom, and I'm like, I go to sit down, like I normally would, but it feels like there's nails coming out of the toilet seat that have shock waves going through them. So I go to sit down, and I'm like, I was so confused because I really needed to pee, and I thought for sure I was just going to pee everywhere, but I couldn't quite, I don't know if people were around me or not. They were somewhere around me, but I couldn't figure out what to do. I just knew I had to pee. There was no stopping the pee, but I couldn't quite sit down. I do know that people helped me off from the toilet, and then I ended up on my hands and knees, and there was a white pillow under my knees. And I couldn't quite figure out how I'd gotten there, but I was swaying, I was on all fours, total animal style. And I opened my eyes, and Sloth Woman's bleeding on my white pillowcase, and I'm wondering why she's doing that. Like, what is going on right now? And I remember something, from childbirth education classes about what that probably was. And that it was a good thing, so I just surrendered again, like letting this ecstatic, kind of intensity just take over, because I wanted to have this baby, right? Like I was ready to be done with this. And then I wound up on the bed, and my midwife's in there, and she's checking things out. And I can't really understand what's happening because there's a contraction trying to happen, and she's saying something about 8 centimeters and push whenever I want to, and I want to kick her, because there's this, I'm so confused, I know I shouldn't kick her, but I want to, and she's so sweet, so instead I go, get out, and she does, and then I'm back in the birthing pool somehow. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's so still. It's like the stillest, most pristine, like nothing. There's no me, there's no nothing. And then this wave comes through, and I want to throw up, and it's so hot, and I'm going like this, I'm like, it's hot, and I'm nauseous, and I want it to go away, and I don't understand. It was so nice just a second ago. And then that stops. And I'm just there, between the worlds, just held in this infinite stillness. And it's just an aliveness that goes on forever and ever. And my eyes are closed, and then this this wave comes back through and it's hot. I'm so hot. I'm like, it's hot. And they start fanning me and I want to throw up again. And somebody gives me a little bit of emergency to drink. And I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. And then it stops. And it's totally still again. It's totally still. And my eyes are closed and I'm just like weightless in the infinite expanse of the universe. And then this roiling turbulence comes from like way down deep somewhere that just reminds me there's some agreement that was made that wants to be met right now. And my eyes open and I look in my midwife's eyes and she just knew, like I don't know how she knew, but she knew I was about to have this baby. And I felt like wide-eyed, like a deer in the headlights, you know? And so this wave comes through, and I swear it felt like the electrical storm of astronomical, I mean, there was no stopping it. It was on, full on, and I'm like, I feel this, like I know my body's contracting, but I'm the whole universe contracting at this point. And this push comes, and this lioness-like roar comes out of me, and I'm like, kind of freaked out by it, but it's kind of awesome too. And she tells me to stop right in the middle of this. And I'm like, what? Like, I can't even comprehend. I know I heard what she had to say, but the whole cosmos is trying to push out of my vagina. And I'm like, huh? So somehow I do though, you know, like somehow it worked. And I'm going, and my pelvis is up and I'm like leaning against the edge of the tub and, kind of like, okay. And then she tells me I can push the next time. Like I breathe through this thing and I can push. And this time with this intense contraction and a burning sensation that I will never forget, a head comes out of my vagina. And then another, and then she says, okay, you can push again. And then, I don't know, this body just whooshes out through my womb, out into the water and into my arms. And then again, there's no me, there's no sloth woman, there's no child, there's just oneness. There's just consciousness aware of itself and form. And about 30 minutes later, I discovered that I had a girl child in my arms. And about 7 days later, we finally named her. And that day, we welcomed home the greatest gift that I have ever had. But she welcomed me home too, because I was definitely reborn that